Thanks everybody for coming. Wow, I'm impressed by the number of people we have here in person. When I drove here this morning, it was definitely it's definitely, I said -7 on my car this morning. So thanks a lot for coming. I think we have maybe 15 people here in person, and then hopefully a bunch of others online. This is the January community meeting, and if I can get my, oh, here we go. Great. Judy, would you mind doing the land and equity acknowledgement?
Sure.
All right.
Happy to do that.
The
The land acknowledgement. As residents of Colorado, we stand on the unceded ancestral lands of the Arapaho, Cheyenne, Lakota, and Ute nations and peoples. These lands were also the site of trade, gathering, and healing for numerous other indigenous tribes. We recognize Native and indigenous peoples as the original stewards of this land, and our presence among their descendants who still dwell within it. We pay our respects to elders past and present. Our equity acknowledgement. We acknowledge that the racial justice, equity, and climate justice are inexorably intertwined, and that poor, vulnerable, and primarily Black, Indigenous, and people of color disproportionately bear the burden due to the lingering effects of systemic and discriminatory practices. We commit to doing our part to ensure that when taking any action to create a sustainable and regenerative future, we will respect, promote, and consider our respective obligations concerning all aspects of equity and strive to create systems in which everyone can thrive.
Awesome. Thanks, Judy. All right, great. Well, we do have a packed agenda for today. And we're starting off the new year with a lot of great stuff that's going on with Inc. And so with that, we're excited to be in City Park. And we have several RNOs from City Park. I know are around City Park. Who do we have here today from the area? All right, great. Perfect. What, I'm sorry, we're
South City Park.
South City Park. Perfect. Okay, great. Well, and we're hoping for some updates of anything that's going on in your RNOs. Does somebody want to come up from City Park West first, or? All right, perfect. And then just, yeah, the orange cord, hopefully everybody can see you online.
Is this it?
Yep, just talk at that thing.
All right, great. Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Ann Kingston with City Park West. So thanks for coming to the neighborhood. Although this is the first time I've been here where there's been no parking spots available. So I am new to the board. I've been helping out with our Facebook, Instagram, kind of online presence and communications. The board has been making some efforts to apply for grants and kind of pick up outreach and stay engaged with the neighborhoods to raise awareness and engage in some of the local issues. One among them, we're helping out the neighbors outside of the Gathering Place, one of the local nonprofits, to help them with some mediation efforts that they have ongoing with the city and good neighbor agreements as pertains to one of their recent permitting requests. And Scott Holder is also here from the City Park West as well, if you have any other questions. And that's it for me.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Ann. Great. And then, are you able? Yeah.
Okay.
All right, great.
Sorry.
Oh, sure.
Careful, we have an
Yeah, sorry.
trip hazard sitting right there.
Yeah, just right around there. Yep, that's
All
your
right,
perfect.
okay.
You're perfect. Yeah.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Ellen Roth. I'm the president of South City Park Neighbors. I have been the president for, this will be my 4th year. We have quite a few things going on. We're working on a conservation overlay with District 10. We just got a grant from District 10 to start mini block parties. Our main event over the summer is a big neighborhood block party during Denver days, but we're engaging our block captains in hosting mini block parties. So we just got a grant for that. and are excited to implement that. And then we're also working with the city on BRT and what that means. You know, we are a really small neighborhood, so this is our neighborhood. We go from here to Colorado and 17th to Colfax, but also like 4,000 people live in our neighborhood, so we're super dense. And yeah, so what that means for pedestrian traffic along 16th Avenue when we take car traffic off Colfax. So working with Denver Streets Partnership and the city on traffic calming on 16th, and yeah. I think that's mostly it. We have a meeting on Wednesday. If anyone feels like coming, they're always on Zoom. And the link's on our website. So we're talking about neighborhood watches in that meeting. So something that could apply to any neighborhood.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks a lot, Ellen.
Of course.
Yeah.
Great. And I think I did see Georgia come on. I don't know if there's anybody else online from City Park neighborhoods. Oh, is CP Fan?
CP Fan is
Oh.
Georgia. City Park
Oh,
is
yeah.
the neighbors.
So Georgia, I don't know if you're able to do a quick update on RNO. You can unmute yourself too.
Hello. I just realized my camera isn't on, or I'd let you see my gorgeous not face. I'm trying to do that right now. Basically, City Park Friends and Neighbors has reprinted the only book ever written about City Park, and it's called Denver City Park. It was written in 1985. It's full of pictures from the Western History Department, pictures from 1882 when the park was founded and until recently. There I am. And it for a $20 donation, and you can make that on our website at cpfan.org. You can get order a copy that we will deliver to you. But the books are also available at the Museum of Nature and Science and the Park Hill Bookstore. The other thing that we're doing, and it's a fabulous book. Let me see if I can. There it is, and I recommend it. And again, cpfan.org is where you could order it from, or the different venues. City Park Friends and Neighbors is collaborating with others to do a refresh on City Park Day, which has been an event every beginning of June to celebrate the park. This year, we're hoping to reinitiate the idea of Victorian dress, because of course, City Park Day was originally the ice cream social and was started by Carla Madison in celebration of when the pavilion had an ice cream parlor within it. So we're going to have Victorian dress, we're going to have face painting, hopefully. D9 and Daryl Watson are going to be very involved in the museum, South City Park, Congress Park. So I'm just giving you a heads up. This year it'll be May 31st. And we'll be contacting everyone. We want it to be, oh, I just see something about the Victorians excited. Great. I'm already getting feedback and support. But we want it to be a community-wide celebration, and all of you around City Park will be contacting you to get involved. We just want it to be a smashing event to celebrate the park and all of us who love it. So that's about it for me. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Georgia. Amber.
Hey, I just wanted to throw this out there to the City Park RNOs. We had received, and maybe Jane can speak to it more than I can, but we had received an email from a neighbor in City Park West about the garage expansion happening for the Nature and Science Museum and giving up some green space. So I don't know if you guys are aware of that. And if not, maybe we can put you in touch with the gentleman, Tom Morris, who seems to know more about it. And Jane, if you want to speak more to it than I do, I just thought this would be a good time to bring it up.
The museum doesn't have any garage expansions planned. They're renovating the East Plaza of the museum, but it's all the space that they're renovating is currently paved or currently part of the museum. So there is no extra footprint being taken up by the museum. They've been very involved in coming to the neighborhood association meetings through their nature plan project and through this project. Yeah, there's no extra footprint coming into the park from this project.
Who was the person from City Park West? I think I know him.
Tom Morris.
He used to live in City Park
Oh,
South, in City
okay.
Park South, that's South
Okay.
City Park. He was the president of South City Park for a long time, and he moved, I think actually out of the city, but yeah. Yeah.
Great. All right. Well, thanks for all the updates from City Park. I think there's a lot of great things going on here. And I'm not able to see the chat on my screen today. So if somebody, yeah, Judy, can you, if there's anything that pops up on the chat, or somebody wants to just vocalize it online, that's great too. So real quick, I did want to talk about, I sent an email out to the Inc. delegates this week. Just a quick year in review of 2023 and a look ahead for 2024. You know, this board did a whole lot this year coming back from the pandemic, and I'm just really excited about everything that you know, INC was able to accomplish. We brought back in-person programming, which was pretty huge. I think this is kind of the single hardest thing that our group does throughout the year. Putting on these meetings, and especially when we're not invested in one area of the city and we don't have those relationships built, finding places to have meetings is a really big lift for this group. And so, you know, one of the things that we're looking to do is expand that this year and try to involve more folks and more delegates from different neighborhoods to try to figure out different places we can host, and having RNOs host. And I think, you know, we're looking at starting a potential program later in the year where we'll actually give like a grant to an RNO that wants to host to be able to fund, like, you know, the food and whatnot for a meeting. And then you'll obviously, I think there'll be enough to have some extra for your own funds for your RNO. So that's one of the things, you know, we're working on doing an introduction of that. Hopefully more information about that next month. But please feel free to contact myself or Judy or Greg if you have any, if you are interested and you want to host INC monthly meeting later in the year. That would be great. You know, the other thing that we did a lot of last year, I think, was focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion in trying to really, you know, more of a long-term perspective. I think it's, you know, it's clear that INC needs to work on available to more diverse neighborhoods out there. We're not very represented from low-income communities in this group, and I think that's something that we really want to work to try to do. Last year, we visited Globeville area, Swansea, and we had a whole presentation on air pollution and particulate matter up there. We also were in North Park Hill, and we had a, you know, a meeting on last May about how RNOs can work on diversifying their own RNOs and getting new members in, and what kind of issues you know, need to be more discussed. And I think that you know, we're going to continue that conversation this year and try to figure out other ways that we can you know, work in and work with folks from other neighborhoods that aren't necessarily represented here at our meetings. We also, you know, we passed a couple of resolutions last year. One was supporting the I-25 interchange pause, which West Wash Park and Lincoln Street RNOs brought, and tried to get our, you know, Inc. to pass a motion in favor of that, which we did. We supported the Greener Denver platform, which came out before the mayoral election last year. we were able to relaunch our zoning and planning committee, which I think has always had a special place for a lot of folks. A couple people have said this to me, that there's no other place in the city where residents and from neighborhoods can come and talk about zoning and planning and have conversations about it. Mostly you're just, either reporting to a zoning and planning committee at the city and registering your thoughts, and there's no real place for a good discussion. And that's something that I think the zoning and planning committee has always been a really big part of INC. So we're happy we were able to relaunch that. We also brought back our award ceremony last year, where we raised over $17,000. We gave away 18 neighborhood awards. We had about 150 participants, so we were really excited about that. And we've done some things for ourselves in terms of passing an operations manual, just in case we all get hit by a car on the board one day. Ink will live on through our operations manual, hopefully. And we're hoping to launch our website, a new website this spring as well. So we're really excited about that. Looking forward to the next year. I think one of the things that's kind of the biggest priority for the Ink board is trying to better serve RNOs and trying to be more of an educational tool for RNOs for things that RNOs need. And we really want to reach out again and have a better relationship and connection with RNOs. We also want to make sure that the committee work that we're doing is out there and folks know about that, because we have some great things happening in some of our committees. And then also, like I said before, continuing to focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion in the year ahead. So with that, great, the budget.
Georgia has her hand
Oh,
up. I wanna
Georgia.
make sure.
Yeah, Georgia, do you have a?
Hi, sorry to interrupt, but I wanted to get back real quickly to the east entrance reconstruction at the Denver Museum of Nature and Science to just let you know that Tom Morris is an incredible guardian of City Park, and as a co-founder of City Park Jazz, it's countless hours of what he's done there, and I respect his opinion greatly, and I'm glad that he keeps looking over the park. I've been in touch with the museum. They are planning a large public meeting in April, and I'll make sure that INC knows all about it and all of you, because that will be the best place for them to lay out their complete plan and get reaction from the public. And it'll be completely transparent and question and answer. So I just wanted to put that out there. Thanks.
Great, thanks so much, Georgia. Great, just at the orange cord. Yeah, sorry, that's the marker.
So a very quick report. Last year, we had $21,500 in income. As Keith mentioned, $17,100 was from sponsors for our awards event. And the rest of that was from RNO memberships and associate memberships. Our expenses last year totaled $18,222. Of that, $9,775 was spent on the awards event. And I'm sorry, our total expenses were $13,593. So we had a income of $9,408. There was no activity in the community fund last year. We're hoping to rectify that this coming year and restart the youth group civic awards. So that will be great. This past Monday, the board adopted a budget for 2024. We're projecting $24,000 in income, and again, we're thinking $17,000 in sponsorships for an awards event. Our budget for expenses totals $30,436.30. So obviously we would be $6,000 in the hole, but we do have money in savings that would cover that. We are planning this year to look at staffing and find some way to support our membership committee. And so we're allocating $1,000 a month to that effort. So that's a good portion of our expenses for this next year. And as I said before, for the community fund, we're allocating $5,000 for youth group civic engagement awards. So, any
Great.
questions? Thank you.
Thanks, Greg. Judy, I do have a couple of
Yep.
slides.
They look just like the ones I was gonna.
All right.
So, perfect. Good morning, everybody. How are you? It's so great to see everybody here. And I'm the cheerleader. I'm the INC cheerleader. So we have an exciting opportunity available for everybody to think about and to put your caps on. If it's not you, it might be somebody you know, or somebody, another delegate in your organization, in your RNO. The elections are coming up in March, and we have 5 positions open to accept nominations into. And Keith is also is one of the nominations and running for re-election for president. I am running for re-election as secretary. And we have 3 open board at-large positions, and Lamone Knowles is running for re-election in that. But we're accepting nominations for anybody who's interested in getting involved and wants to know what's involved to being on the board, and just getting a little bit more active, not just for your RNO, but for this larger group that comes together and tries to really leverage our talents and our interests and find the places that we can really collaborate effectively. We're really wanting to diversify our board, both from a geographic perspective, from a lived experience perspective, from an age perspective, you name it, whatever dimension of diversifying our perspectives, we welcome it, and we need it. So we've got a lot of great energy happening here, and I really encourage anybody who's thinking they might want to at least come talk to me and talk to someone else on the nominations committee. So, okay, so that's who we've got. That's what's open, and what's required is contacting me through the the secretary thing. But here, the requirements for the nomination to run is at the time of the election, you have to be a delegate from an RNO member who is in good standing, and be able and willing to fulfill the role and expectations. And so that's what the conversation would be about, is the expectations for whatever position you'd be interested in, and be willing to write and present a statement of interest and vision to the membership. We'll ask for the written piece to come in order that we can publish it in an email, all of the positions and all of the vision statements in advance of the election, so people can read that and then be able to present yourself at the election in March. So looking for February 8th for nominations should be received in advance of the February 10th meeting, because at the 10th meeting, that's our last call for nominations from the floor, in case somebody just kind of decided they really wanted to step in at that. That gives us time to put it all together. Does that make sense? And so we'll get the candidate statements by February 24th, get them out to the membership, and then the INC board elections are at our March 9th community delegate meeting. So just put your thinking caps on, find it in your heart, come on, we need you. All right, that's all.
Thanks, Judy.
Yeah.
That was great.
What's the time commitment?
The time commitment, that's a good, we have and others can speak to this, but there's an executive committee meeting once a month on Zoom, and participation in these meetings, and then getting involved wherever that looks good for you. We really encourage people to connect up with the committees of interest, and just kind of jump in. And then we have a retreat about once a year.
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing that we can talk about this
Mhm.
offline, is putting some time in the description of the
Yeah.
positions on what that actually looks like
Yeah.
per month. I will say that, so you can think about it this way, that there's 2 meetings a month that are, there's this meeting, and then there's the executive committee meeting, which is an hour and a half, and then there's this meeting, which usually runs about 2 hours. That I don't know, I mean, it's pretty flexible. It's like if you have to miss a meeting, it's not a big deal. And certainly everybody, has times come up that they're like, oh, I can't make it this weekend, I'm out of town, which is totally fine. But just having a decent amount of people, I think, on the board helps us to be able to do
Spreads the
that.
love.
And then, we have a lot of special projects coming up this year. I think we're trying to plan a couple of events possibly, which I think will be, they're really, the events are fun, but they take a little bit of work. Jane can attest to this, but we definitely want to make sure that we're figuring out ways to get people back together in person, because I think that's the one comment that we've gotten the most from the awards event, and then these is just how much people want to see each other and connect. And the online stuff is amazing that we can being able to provide space for people to get together. And so we do have some needs there in terms of folks that are interested in helping to put some of these events together and whatnot. And then also, the committee work that we're doing, I think we're trying to get back into the swing of, what our committees have done in the past, and kind of looking more at, some of the work that, transportation and zoning and planning and things like that can do, both in bringing in speakers and then also like having good participation and whatnot. So. Yeah, and then, the statement of interest and vision, don't feel like that needs to be really long or anything. It can be a few sentences.
It's just sort of what you're passionate about.
Just don't use Chat GPT.
Yeah, INC.
All right.
Don't worry.
All right. With that, I think we can move on to committee reports. Joel, are you online?
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me fine?
Yes, we can. Can you hear us?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we had our INC Transportation Committee meeting this Thursday night. We had 45 people in attendance, which was super great. And we had 3 topics. First was Front Range Passenger Rail. This is a proposal to have passenger rail run across the Front Range, north and south, from Fort Collins or beyond to Pueblo and beyond. And so they've got some money, about $500,000 from the federal government to develop a proposal. They're in a federal program for corridor development. So if the voters, and this will eventually go to us as voters, approve funding for developing and operating this, they're in line to get significant match from the federal government. It was a great presentation because they're so early in the process. So while we saw some of their early maps and videos describing it, I would say about half of the presentation was their executive director asking us, or their chief of staff asking us, what we wanted to see, not just in terms of the route, but in terms of the types of vehicles, the location of the stops, accessibility, et cetera. So really love bringing topics that are so new to the group. We have a kind of a tradition we've done for the past few years of bringing Denver Streets Partnership, which is a coalition of all the nonprofits and advocacy groups working on transportation topics in Denver, to give kind of a summary of how the past year went and a preview of what we know is coming in the coming year, both at the city level and at the state level. And so looking forward, that includes things that will be up at the legislature, including proposals for a vehicle weight tax that will fund safe streets programs. So looking forward to seeing how that develops at the state legislature. And our third topic was developing a new vision for Colorado Boulevard. As you know, in Blueprint Denver and in Denver Moves Transit, a number of our major arterials were targeted for significant upgrades to transit, such as bus rapid transit. And among them, of course, East Colfax, which is underway, But Federal Boulevard, which is heavily used for transit, and Colorado Boulevard are kind of the three on the top of the list. So this was about Colorado Boulevard taking the lead from Denver's planning. Now CDOT, the Colorado Department of Transportation, which owns Colorado Boulevard, is doing planning at a more detailed level. So we had the project manager from CDOT talk with us. We took an extended amount of time for this, probably 45, 50 minutes, going into a lot of depth and had time to answer a lot of questions. So that project's just starting. They're going to have public meetings in the spring, and we're looking forward to those dates. We meet every other month on odd numbered months, the second Thursday of the month, and everyone's welcome to join us.
Great, thanks so much, Joel.
Keith,
Yeah.
can you talk about Viva Streets?
Yeah, I can mention that Jill Okentori from Denver Streets Partnership shared the news that had, I think, just come out that day or the day before. There's something going on. I don't have any insider details with the city getting the permits for Viva Streets. Viva Streets was the 4 Sundays in the summer last year where in the morning on those 4 Sundays, car traffic wasn't allowed on Broadway, going up all the way to Welton Street and then going up Welton Street. And so people were out biking and walking and really a good festival atmosphere. Something's gone on with getting the permits there. And so this was I think the lead group that put it together was the Downtown Denver Partnership, and kind of the lead community outreach group was Denver Streets Partnership. Downtown Denver Partnership has put out an email saying, unfortunately, it won't be happening this year, and they're looking forward to planning for 2025. Denver Streets Partnership has put out an email saying it sounds like the city, is having some issues figuring out permitting, and please write to the mayor and say, can we get this figured out, because this is a valued event. So I was going to bring this up with the executive committee. There was a proposal at the INC Transportation Committee that INC sign on to a letter, encouraging the mayor to figure out whatever the permitting issues are. I know INC has a very deliberative process for taking positions, and we don't just jump up and take a position right away. So I'll be talking this through with the executive committee.
Great, thanks, Joel. Adam, are you on? I don't think he is. So I think we'll move on to education with Joanna.
Good morning, everyone. Sorry I couldn't join you in person. I'm sick and I don't want to spread it. The Education Committee was put on pause with my co-chair, Steve Smith. We are working and excited to jump into this new year. We have decided with our Education Committee to really work with our RNOs and the parents of students in the RNOs, and really highlighting each of the students that they're doing in their community. Kind of what Denver, the Youth Awards is doing is what we would be doing. Excuse me. We are looking for volunteers. If you're interested, please send us an email or call. Get ready for next month as well. I will be hosting the Denver INC meeting, and it would be, the topic is unity in the community. We'll be working with DPS schools, our mayor, and some other people. So thank you so much.
Great, thanks, Joanna. And there's, we'll talk more about next month at the end of the meeting too. There's an announcement about it. So great. Zoning and planning, Amber or Lucas?
Yeah, is Lucas there in person? I'd love to throw it to him if he's there.
Person. Do you mind talking for just a minute up here? Great. Yeah, just the orange cord.
The orange cord.
Yeah.
Hey everyone, my name is Lucas. I'm new to INC this year. I just joined Amber as co-chair for the Zoning and Planning Committee. You all might have received a survey twice over the holidays from the two of us that we put together to kind of gauge what topics in planning and zoning you all are interested in, and how we can best boost engagement, and how our committee can best serve the RNOs and the membership at large. Yesterday, Amber and I talked through the results of that survey agenda for the year. So far, we've received a lot of interest in ADUs and the growth-related policies to Denver and what those mean for neighborhoods. We haven't fully nailed down the agenda yet for the year, and we're still working on guests, so we'll let you know as soon as we have those.
Great. Thanks, Lucas.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then is there Gertie?
Yeah, when is the next, exact meeting?
We'll be meeting on the even numbered months, so we have one coming up in February. I think the 3rd, Amber, is that correct?
Yeah, the third Thursday, Gertie. We changed it from the first Tuesday to the third Thursday.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Great.
And then just one other thing, with all the interest that we had from about ADUs, I think that that's going to be our topic for February, along with construction costs. I think we're going to add, those are going to be our 2 points. Again, not having hammered everything else out. I think that's where we're headed for February.
Great. Thank you both. And then Lamone, are you on?
Was.
I haven't seen her on this morning online. I've
Okay.
been
All right. Thanks. So moving on. I know, Lou, I know you're on. Do you mind if we kind of flip this and we can talk about the membership announcement at the end of the meeting with the other
Sure, that's
announcements?
fine.
Okay, great, thanks. So next we have Elena Shtern.
Yep.
All right, from the Denver Botanic Gardens. We're very excited to talk about what you would imagine talking about on a cold January morning and with -7 is xeriscaping. So we can
At least it'll survive this winter.
Exactly.
If you do xeriscape,
Yeah.
right?
So I'm going to stop sharing and then allow you to share. Does that work?
Okay.
You should be able to
And it
share.
Just disappeared.
Okay. Yep. Okay, so you just need to, I'm going to stop share. And then we just need to go on your screen.
Great picture of Lou, isn't it?
Oh, go to the Microsoft Edge. For now? Go to the window, or what were you?
I think we were good with the entire
Okay.
screen, right? Yeah.
Yeah. let's try that.
Okay, let's turn that.
So, then you're just gonna click over, okay.
Click over.
Perfect.
There we go. Okay.
Perfect.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining me today.
Can everybody online hear?
We can.
Okay,
You can hear?
perfect.
Okay, great. So my name is Elena, and I'm a horticulturalist. And today we will be talking about the principles of xeriscaping in the Denver metro area.
Could you speak a little louder?
I can try.
Okay.
Is that better?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm really bad at projecting. I feel like I start yelling when yeah. So the first thing I'd like to talk about is actually our climate. So we do live in a steppe climate, which means that it's a semi-arid continental climate. Grasses and shrubs dominate here, and the plants operate in cycles with the seasonal moisture. Very high UV intensity and very extreme weather is the norm, right? It's very hot in the summers, very cold in winters. And there are 4 major steppe regions recognized globally. Here's actually a map. There's Asia, Patagonian steppe, and South Africa. And one in here in North America. And the great thing about that is that a lot of the plants from those areas do really well in our region as well. So a lot of the plants we do grow in our Xeriscaping gardens at the Botanic Gardens are from South Africa or from Patagonia. And our climate is a result of orographic effect. So this happens when air masses are forced over really high topography. So as you can see, there's evaporation from the ocean. The winds are moving west to east. And what happens is as the air rises, it cools and all of the moisture condenses there. And so that side of the mountain ends up getting a lot of the moisture. And by the time the air makes it over the mountain, there's really not very much moisture left in the air. And as it lowers, it warms up and gets even drier. So we are actually in what is called a rain shadow, right, on that side of the mountain, right? So we notice that if we go to the mountains for the weekend, there's a lot more snow there, right, for example, and we get a lot less of it on this side. So that's the North American steppe here. Pretty high elevation, dry, cold winters, hot summers with monsoons. And we no longer really get those reliably as well. We can get very dry summers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, this really presents a challenge for what we can plant here, right? And so I have a couple of pictures of what this place naturally looks like. Without irrigation, without plantings, without all the trees that we put up, this is what the steppe looks like. And this is another picture. This is a lot of sage here. So it is very lush and very dense. Another quick thing before we really get rolling is some water use data. This is from 2019, but I just looked at the current one and it's actually the same. The single family water use is 50% outdoors, and you can see this graph. The heat, the weather, how hot the weather is, really correlates to how much water is being used out there, right? So we can really think about how we're using our water outdoors. We can really work on that because it's such a large piece of the pie there. And I think planting xeric plants is one of the biggest solutions here. So the Xeriscape principles. The term was actually coined by Denver Water in the 1990s, which is, I think, really, you know, farsighted of them to come up with this concept. And it's not really a step-by-step process. I think a lot of these things sort of bleed into each other. So it's planning and design, soil improvements, efficient irrigation, plant zone, mulches, alternatives, maintenance, and we'll talk about all of these. And then I have a list of plants. I don't know how many of them we'll have time to go through. I got really excited and made a huge list.
We could send all your presentation and list out to the email.
Yeah,
list
that would be
after
great.
the-
And then you can just look over all of those plans on your own. Yeah. So we'll talk about all the steps and kind of how they work together and how they go into each other. But here's some photos to get us to start thinking about what Xeriscape can look like in Denver. So the picture on the top is a crevice garden with xeric mountain plants. The one on the left, on the bottom left, is a stylistic interpretation of a shortgrass prairie. And the one on the right is a shrubland that's been inspired by Western Colorado and Utah. Very different looks, all very xeric. So our first step, planning and design. And this can be as expansive or as quick as you want it to be, but you do really want to look at your sites. You want to look at the exposure, you want to look at the slope, you want to look at your irrigation, what existing plants are already there. To identify your needs, what is the space for? Is this your front yard and you just like really want a lot of color to wow the cars that are passing through? Or is this a space for dogs and kids to play in? Are you trying to create, you know, a private nook where you can have dinner? And once you assess the site and you identify your needs, you can from there start making a plan. And that can be also, you know, whatever form you would like it to take. You can measure out your whole yard, you can graph it, and figure out where you want to put all of your plants. Or you could just make a kind of like a loose plant list and then decide their placement as you go into the planting stages. I think that this stage is really the most overwhelming part for most people. So this is actually here a link to some free low water landscape designs on the Denver Botanic Garden website. And they kind of look like this little chart on the right. So there's a full list of plants and it tells you exactly how to lay them out. It really takes all of the guesswork out. And it even has like measurements of the bed. And there's quite a few of those available. And even if you don't end up using them, I think it's a great place to start to kind of get an idea of, you know, what this might look like.
Do they have pictures of what that plan would look like when it's growing and doing its thing?
I don't think so.
Okay, that's always that's the hard part for me.
That is the
That
hard
is
part, yes.
Being able to see what
To
that would
visualize.
look like in my
Mhm.
space, you know what I
Yes,
mean?
yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah,
appreciate
but you know, that can be part of your planning portion too, is actually like Googling all of these plants, pulling up the photos, creating a little mood board for yourself.
Mhm.
You know, I think it's
Yeah.
really fun to do all of this
Yeah, it
stuff.
is
Yeah,
fun.
yeah. So Xeriscape versus Xeriscape. I just wanted to have a few of these photos up because, you know, this is what we see around town a lot, and this is what people think of when they think about, you know, xeriscaping, and it just really doesn't have to be like this. There's some very, very creative mulching there, but like it could be so much more. So sort of as a counter example, here is the Rhodes Water Smart Garden at the Denver Botanic Gardens, and look at how lush that is. I think it's just incredible what you can achieve. Let's see, it's dense, it's very, very diverse. There's something going on at every point in the year. And as maybe you remember earlier, I was showing you some photos of the step. There are no empty spaces. So plants really fill in the whole area. And this is what this garden is doing as well. This garden actually doesn't even receive regular irrigation. It's only watered on as needed basis. And there's even like a little sign right in front of the garden that tracks all the water use that you can look at if you come and visit. So this is more what I'm talking about when I say xeriscape, not this. And more ideas of what this could look like. So it's really such a big spectrum. So, you know, on the top left, we have a very, very informal garden. This is the Plains Garden at DBG. It's really a matrix of grasses interplanted with some shrubs and forbs. It's managed like a nature preserve. So actually kind of like a really fun thing the manager of this garden does is he doesn't cut it down every year. Every 3 or 4 years, he applies for a permit with the city and we actually just burn it. It's really fun. It's really cool to watch if you ever get to experience that. They tried to post it on social media, but it's kind of hard to plan for because we have to make sure the winds are just right and the weather is just right.
Is this at the, I'm sorry, is this at the city Botanic Gardens or the one out at Chatfield?
It's the one here.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a Plains Garden. It's sort of like on the west
Okay,
side of
yeah.
the garden. To, you know, counterexample to that is the Kendrick Lakes Garden, which looks very much like a traditional, you know, perennial border, but it uses xeric plants. So you can achieve some, you know, very like traditional looks with these kinds of plants too. And as far as water goes, there's quite a range as well. So on the left here, we have the Plant Select Garden, and that is watered once a year. I'm sorry, once a week, not once a year. So it still saves a ton of water. It uses way less water than a lawn would. But it's on the wetter side. On the right side, we have the Nexus Garden, also at the Botanic Gardens. And that gets water maybe 2 or 3 times a year in the hottest months. And it's still a very lush garden, as you can see. It's full of these beautiful cacti and sedums. So here's a little design cheat sheet. And of course, you're gonna get to decide what your garden looks like, but I think these are kind of applicable across the board. Texture always comes early in our region, and grasses and shrubs, foliage, fruits, seed heads, these are the kinds of things to really think about when you're choosing your plants versus what color the blooms are. So this is another photo of the Water Smart Garden at the Botanic Gardens. Just look at how abundant it looks, and there's not a single flower in bloom there. But all of those different forms, shapes, textures really like bring everything together. It's absolutely stunning. Let's see. And another big thing is you really should try to grow the plants based on your site. I think that traditional gardening really focuses on amending soils and really trying to create these perfect conditions for the plants you want in your garden. And with Xeri gardening, we're focusing more on trying to bring in plants that will do really well on that site naturally. So we don't have to pamper them or baby them. And just to layer on top of design, there's been a lot of talk about ecological xeriscaping recently in just a few books that I really like. Ecological xeriscaping takes into account not just design, but also benefits for wildlife and pollinator services, stormwater runoff reduction, and of course, human health. So we can, our gardens can be so much more than just pretty places. They can be, places of service to all the little critters out there and the butterflies and the bees. Yeah, these are really great books, and they're really beautiful too.
And I bet they're available at the Botanic Gardens shop.
You know what? I'm not 100% sure, but I know they're widely available in most bookstores. Yeah. They're not hard to find. No, these have come out in the last few years, and I feel like this is like such a hot topic right now in gardening. Yeah, these books are everywhere. So the next thing we're going to talk about is soils, and as I kind of started talking earlier, we're just going to do away with the notions of good and bad soil because steppe soils are very poor in organic matter. And we're not going to add compost. We're not going to add organic matter to these because the plants like the lean soil. In fact, I've participated in some talks by speakers from Britain, and a lot of what they talk about is actually making their soil less rich because this is so all these American plants are so popular right now, and people all over the world are trying to recreate these steppe plantings, but in Great Britain the soils are just too rich for a lot of these plants, and it just doesn't work out very well. There's too much moisture. Overwatering kills a lot more xeric plants than underwatering. And that's something big to think about with your xeric garden, is a lot of people just overwater. If you do need to amend, we recommend inorganic materials like pea gravel or expanded shale, and these are the same things we recommend for mulching, which is I think step 4 or 5. Efficient irrigation is our next concept. The 2 major ones are drip irrigation and overhead. At the Botanic Gardens, we primarily use overhead irrigation. It's a little more adaptable to changes and well suited to naturalistic gardens, but it's a little less efficient. We know the drip, there's a lot less evaporation. irrigation. It just delivers the water directly to the soil. We recommend that you water deeply and infrequently. This will increase the plant's tolerance for drought. It'll make them grow their roots longer, stronger, oh, something a lot of folks do is they sort of turn on their irrigation and then they forget it for the season. I really recommend checking on a weekly basis. Heads break all the time, stuff starts to leak, and you really want to be updating based on the weather, based on precipitation, based on the heat, how much your garden is getting. It really shouldn't be just the same level of watering all across the board throughout the season. 4 is plant zones. So this is pretty straightforward, I think. The plants with similar cultural requirements should be planted together. So, you know, if you have a lawn and you do carve out a space in there, you don't want to maybe rip out your whole lawn, but you want to start Xeric gardening, you will need to separate that irrigation so that your Xeric plants get different watering from your lawn. And, you know, the plants that grow in the shade on the, you know, north side of the house might need a different zone too. So I think this makes very intuitive sense. We just need to remember to put the plants that belong together. Mulches, very beneficial for conserving soil moisture. Don't recommend bark mulch. It absorbs a lot of the water. These mulches drain really well, so the water can actually get to the soil, it can actually get to the plants. The other thing is that bark mulch decomposes. It will eventually become organic matter, and we just talked about not really adding organic matter to the soils. Decomposed granite is also appropriate. Most of these are widely available, and they really are appropriate for 99% of the Xeriscape situations here in Denver. Another thing to consider is what we call green mulch. It's where you plant the plants so densely that they essentially just shade out the soil when they're mature. And the Water Smart Garden is a great example of that. It is mulched, but during the high season, you really just don't see the soil at all because it's planted so densely. Turf alternatives. There's a couple of really good ones. One is buffalo grass. It's a very cute little grass. You can let it grow and it has really nice little blooms like that. Or you can mow it if you want to keep it shorter. It's a little messier than a traditional lawn, but as you can see from these photos, it very much, you know, passes for one. But it requires a lot less water. The grass naturally is pretty short. It's under 6 inches usually. And this can be planted in plugs or it can be seeded. And I've seen it establish itself within 1 season just from seed. You put the seeds down kind of earlier in March. And by the end of summer, you actually have something quite green. The other turf alternative that we recommend is dogtail grass. This one is only available as plugs, but it will also fill in a season. This one is very, very short, and you don't even need to mow it. And it's supposed to be very tolerant of foot traffic. Therefore, the dog, and also, you know, the pee, which is a concern, of course, for some people. Okay, step 7 is maintenance for xeric plants. And the maintenance very much will depend on the kind of garden you have, of course, but here's some just general prescriptions, and we discussed most of these. We do want to water deeply and infrequently. We do want to use gravel mulches. If you don't like the ratty, tired plants, you can cut them back. I think that a lot of people do think of xeric plantings as a little bit more naturalistic. And that's not for everyone, but you can absolutely, you know, have the kind of maintenance that makes it look very tidy. It's all about how you want your garden to be. Don't amend with much organic matter. Don't overwater, and don't add sand to clay soils. You're just making brick. Oh, this was my fancy slide, and I think I messed it up. Let's see. So these are some of the photos from the previous slides, just to give you like more solid examples of maintenance. So this is the shortgrass prairie in the children's garden. And let's see, it's not mulched because it has buffalo grass and it's very, very dense. That crowds out most of the weeds. I go over it with a mower once a year. So everything, all of those forbs, all of those grasses, even some of the shrubs get mowed down, and it all comes back beautifully. So it doesn't really need very much.
I thought gravel rock mulches were discouraged because they absorb too much.
Okay, maybe I can address that when we get to the question.
Sure, sure.
So yeah, so that's all the maintenance this gets. This is that crevice garden we looked at earlier. This needs to be weeded throughout the season, and it gets cut back in spring. The last photo is the shrubland from earlier. This gets cut back in spring pretty hard. It actually doesn't get regular irrigation, only as needed. So this also gets hand watered maybe 3 or 4 times a year, and it's very, very hot. And because it gets a little irrigation, actually not a lot of weeds come up. This gets gravel mulch. So these are more solid examples of what your maintenance might look like depending on what kind of garden you choose. Plant selection is our next step. This is kind of the funnest part, I think, plant shopping, plant selection, but it can also be the trickiest. There's definitely been so much more interest in these types of plants in the last 10 years, and I think they're a lot more available now. Some sources is Plant Select program, which is a partnership between the Denver Botanic Gardens and CSU and some green industry partners. These plants are trialed by us and CSU, so once we release them under a program, they're sort of guaranteed to do well in our climate. So anything from this list, check out their website. They have a few new releases every year, and most nurseries carry this stuff now. You just need to look for the Plant Select sign. The Colorado Native Plant Society has a yearly sale. They have some really amazing plants usually, and of course the Denver Botanic Gardens has a yearly sale. We actually have 2. We have a spring and a fall sale. And during the sale, you want to look. We have a Plant Select area, and we have a Waterwise area, and the third place to check out is Garden Ground. All of those will have some really great, very appropriate plants for our climate. Some books that I recommend. I point out High and Dry and Pretty Tough Plants as 2 of the best ones, so you don't have to start with all of them. Pretty Tough Plants is really just a catalog of the Plant Select plants. High and Dry, I would say, is a little more in depth, and it has a lot of very interesting plants that are not necessarily as popular, but it will really like open your range of what exists, what's out there. That's it. That was our last thing. So next I just have some plants that I really, really love. And like I said earlier, I got a little bit too excited and made a really long list. I think maybe we'll look at them for about 5 minutes and then we'll open it to questions and then we'll try to share this presentation. So you have all these plants.
That's great.
Look at Artemisia, amazing, amazing plant. Not very much like as far as color or blue goes, but a really great texture year round. Most of them are evergreen, so even in winter they look amazing. There's so many different species. I'm just gonna run through most of these just because there's so little time. Highly underused, prickly pear cactus. There's some things on the market now that are actually repeat blooming, the Walk in Beauty series, and there's so many different colors now. There's such great plants. This is one of my favorites, Apache bloom. It's a shrub. It can get pretty big. It can get up to 6 feet, and it blooms all summer long. Amazing for pollinators. Has these beautiful seed tufts. I'd say 3/4 of the year it really pays its rent. Agastache smells amazing. This one dies down to the ground every year, but it comes back. There's different colors available. This is another great shrub, rabbit brush, Ericomeria. There's smaller and larger varieties. It blooms very, very late in the season, so it's a great season extender for pollinators. This beautiful grass, Muhlenbergia reversionii. When the sun comes through it, it's just absolutely stunning. Prickly poppies, really beautiful foliage, really pretty plants. Milkweeds, we know milkweeds are amazing. There's such a great variety. Some of them love dry, some of them are for wetter spots. There's different colors. They all bloom at different times. Definitely look into milkweeds. You know, they're amazing for monarchs and other butterflies. Dahlia is not a true clover, but it is a legume, so it fixes nitrogen. Really lovely plant. Ice plants, really great ground cover. Comes in such a great variety of colors. Now it's kind of crazy. Diasha has a very long bloom season. Eriogonum is such a great plant. Very low growing, but the blooms after they're spent, the seed heads look absolutely amazing too. So it really lasts for a very long time in the garden. Epilobium, which used to be called Zoscheria, and I think it's usually still sold as that. This is another really great one that blooms super, super late to extend that season for pollinators and to get some late season color. California poppies are actually annuals, but I really love them. You know, if you do have a very formal garden and you want to add a little bit of wildness to it, I think self-seeding plants are a great way to start adding that into your garden. Once you establish them, and they're super easy to pull, so you can take them out where you don't want them. A variety of colors are available, but from my experience, they will often revert back to that orange after a few years of self-seeding. Alcium, also a great plant. There's a yellow one that's called Flavum, and there's a red one. Ipomopsis, a lot of these are also biennials. So they have this really feathery, beautiful foliage the first year, and then they really shoot up the year after. There's several different species. Another great self-seeder to add a little bit of wild. Enotheras, evening primroses, are just absolutely beautiful. They mostly open in the evening, so especially the white ones are really nice for a space where you know spend time maybe after the sun sets. It's just love that photo. This is just what our prairie looks like. That's what the stuff looks like. Those coniferous blooming. And then the taller ones are the whirling butterflies. I think they used to be called garas, but they're coniferous now too. They're always changing the names of everything. Penstemons, of course. There's so many amazing penstemons. I'm just gonna skip through this. Salvia, different salvias. Salvia cyanescens is a really great one. This one is not a native, but as we discussed, there are different steppe regions throughout the world, and the plants from those areas do so well here. There's another salvia. Salvia. Scutellaria. Soralcia, the globe mallows are beautiful. There's different species too. Absolutely stunning. Am I even getting to the bottom of this? I can just stop whenever I'm out of time, so just let me know.
Well, no, you're good. I mean, if you want to do questions for a while, I mean, I think that works too. And we can look at some more of these. You know, I had a question is, I didn't see this on here, is I've used the garden in the box from Denver Water. And is that something that you would recommend? Or-
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they do, to Judy's point, they, you know, you have the map, but they'll also have pictures of what that map looks like.
Yep. Yeah.
And that's, you know, I mean, we could send a link with your stuff too to that, but it's through Denver Water is, I think Garden in a Box program. Oh, the resource.
Yeah, the research out of Boulder.
Resource Central,
Yeah, they are
Pick
amazing.
them up,
Absolutely. They do
Yeah.
great work. And I've actually used their Garden in a Box before, you know, doing like plants, friends' yards. And the other great thing they do is when you pick up your box, you can buy extra plants if you want to.
Nice. I didn't know that.
Yeah, absolutely. I recommend them. They have amazing plants.
And that goes to actually Bruce's comment here, his first comment. What's needed are people and companies that do this work for moderate cost for the non-green thumb types. You know, so that's an
Right.
example of something
Yeah.
that's
And
pre-planned.
yeah, and the other really great thing that the Resource Center does is they have a program for taking out your lawn that they do very, very
Who
cheaply.
does that?
It's the Resource Center
Oh,
out of Boulder.
I took out a front strip that was 4 feet by, I don't know, 16 feet a couple falls ago, and I probably should have just had them do it. It was not.
That's hard work.
It
is-
is for
You
sure.
had to do it well. to
Yeah.
Really get it.
Yeah, it was only 4 inches, and it was rough.
Did you rent equipment or did you do it all with a shovel? Yeah, definitely like renting a lawn cutter can be worthwhile depending on how much grass you have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was, and I think the state is, you know, I don't know where this is at, but in California, I know they pay people to take out their lawns, and I think Colorado's kind of
We're getting
talking
there.
about that.
Yeah, I
anyway.
was looking at that a few days ago actually, and it sounds like they're not doing it for like individual owners yet.
Okay.
But if you have an organization or a municipality, then there are programs that will subsidize you taking out your lawn.
Okay.
So if I could add, like, Resource Central, which I've come familiar with recently, has actually partnered with the city of Greenville. And they're going to provide an opportunity for you to apply for a grant to remove the turf out of your front yard. And this application, I think, is going to come online pretty soon. I don't know that it's just Greenville. I think you can get on there and get information about it. But it's a big push. They're a nonprofit out of Boulder. They have partnered with other places, but I think the key here is really getting the right contractor, the right people to help do this, because it's pretty costly if you hire someone to do it. If you do it yourself. The other thing I'd recommend is not taking the turf off your property. You turn the sod upside down and use it as a material to later plant plants in, and you develop some grade with that. It's something you really want to think about, not having to take the turf off your land, but keep it somewhere where you can use it in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. absolutely, that's definitely an option. Yeah. And some people will even do things like cover their lawn with several layers of cardboard for the season to kind of like kill the grass. And then as they remove it, they will turn it into the soil, so they don't have to worry about taking it
Oh,
out.
that's nice.
Yeah, there's
Can Amber, I know you have a question. I just want to make sure everybody could hear what we were discussing here. Okay, great. Amber?
When is the best time to plant? You know, I know there are the different times of the year for different kind of things, especially you know, needing to water more after planting once versus once plants get established. So when is the best time to start building a xeric garden?
So I would say there's really two times a year that I plant. The first window is after the ground is no longer frozen and before the heat hits. And ideally, you really want to, I mean, it's so hard to predict the weather in Denver, you know, but ideally you want a couple of weeks, maybe even a month before that heat really hits. So your plants have some time in the ground to acclimate and to grow roots a little bit. And the second window is after the heat drops off at the end of the season. I do a lot of planting in September and this year even into October and November. And then there's still a little bit of time for the plants to sit there before the ground freezes and do their thing. Does that,
And then
does that answer your question?
what about watering getting established? I mean, is once a week enough in the spring to get plants established? I know dependent on how hot it is and all of that. But how often watering?
No, I would say probably at least twice a week, depending on your site. I think what you really want to look for is if you really just need to get in there and look at your soil and touch it. And if it's drying out every day or every other day, then you need to water every day or every other day. And just give your plants a few weeks of like attention like that, and then taper off the watering, unless it gets really hot and then you just want to continue. The first season is a little trickier, even with xeric plants. You really need to pay attention and give them extra water.
And then one more question, what bulbs would you recommend for xeric gardens?
There are a lot of what we call species tulips. They're a little smaller. They're not as showy. They're pretty short. But they haven't been, you know, bred to be really tall, and they naturally come from those steppe regions in Asia. So, oh gosh, I'm completely blanking now. I want to give you just like a name or two. But if you Google species tulips, a bunch of stuff will come up. There are Tulipa gregii and Kaufmania, and a bunch of other things will show up, and they actually naturalize over time, so they will kind of spread out, and they work really great in like like the buffalo grass. I have a ton of them planted in my shortgrass prairie, and they look amazing. And I think most, now that I'm looking online, you know, a lot of the people, a lot of the stores that sell like normal tulips will have one or two varieties of these species tulips.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. That was a great presentation too.
Yeah, thank you. I actually had another question because I've had challenges. Okay, I've had challenges going to nurseries and them not having an adequate amount of like plants that are low water or xeriscape or kind of put together, or they're all spread out. And do you have any recommendations on like nurseries to try, and then also like what to look for? Because I feel like when I've gone sometimes it's just they're all over the place.
Yeah.
In terms of trying to like piece these together.
Yeah. That is absolutely a challenge. And as I was saying earlier, I think it's getting better every year because a lot more people are starting to carry the Plant Select plants. And those are usually in one place and you can just see the label. So you know, something else that I do think helps a lot is giving feedback to the nurseries. I think it does take years for all of this to happen, but as more people are interested in this, the nurseries are starting to bring in more natives, more xeric plants, and starting to give them their own sections. But really, I think the native plant sale and the Denver Botanic Gardens sale are probably your best bets, where plants are actually grouped by your, interest. And yeah, a lot of the nurseries can be hit or miss for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, that's just an
Richard?
issue.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I guess a quick comment just on the resource center. I think I agree with some of the comments that it's great for a beginner. So when we tried it the first 2 times, having that design and curating of that, it really helped. And now we feel like we've done that a couple times. We can do it. We can start picking out those things ourselves or filling in, some of the things. The other comment is, we tried this thing with this one company called Meadow in a Box, but I guess my question is, what they're looking at is really focusing on native plants, and so we have this Meadow in a Box. I think it's called Otherworld Seeds. But one of the questions I have is in terms of bringing in those plants from other areas. They don't necessarily support the native pollinators, and so, but I kind of wonder, what's the density of xeriscaping with native plants to really support those native pollinators? And is one yard and there's none others within a few blocks, does that help, or what's the target in terms of that? And
that's such a great question. And I don't know if I'm fully qualified to answer something like that. So it's very tricky. So for one, we are actually finding out that a lot of the non-native plants will still support a lot of the native bees. That it's okay.
Or generalist.
Yeah, there are definitely very, very particular specialists where it just doesn't work. But in general, it does. The other thing to think about is, you're right, is this like an isolated island in this neighborhood? And then what happens to these bees, right? They have nowhere else to go. And there's definitely this theory that you need to have corridors between all of these areas that, support movement. Because even if the area is large enough to support a certain population, then they're just kind of stuck there and they can't breed with other populations. So we definitely, the more the better. What those numbers are, I just don't know. And I'm not even sure anyone else knows, but this is why we need to keep working on this and talking to everyone about it and explaining our plans.
Getting awareness. Yeah, there's one question here from Bruce, or statement, thought gravel rock mulches were discouraged because they absorb too much sun. So that, yeah.
Right, yeah. That's definitely a concern for more traditional plants, I would say. I don't think it's a problem for xeric plants. We do recommend 2 to 3 inches so that it still provides cooling effects to the soil. That thickness, right?
Yeah. Because if it were thin, then it would just heat it. It heats up more and transfers to the soil. Whereas if it's thicker.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I have a colleague who's actually doing some experiments with different types of mulches right now. And hopefully we'll have some results to share with everyone in the next couple of years. But so far, it looks like for xeric plants, bark mulch is just a no-go. And that, even if the surface of the up to the touch, you touch it a little deeper, you go in there, and it does provide a cooling effect for sure.
Yeah. Agreed.
My concern with this focus on xeric, and I mean xeric, not zero, is what does that mean for our urban forest? Because what I see happening along the streets in my neighborhood is that people are doing, they're taking out their attempt to have grass, and putting in, most of the time, it's bark mulch, because there's a program in our neighborhood called Oasis, and they're coming in and doing some very interesting things, but they are mulching with bark mulch. And I'll tell you, it's a very interesting group that is doing this. But my concern is what's going to happen to our urban forests if what we have is a lot of xeric, because trees need water. They don't, they're different, obviously, there are trees that are more drought tolerant than others, but we're going to be in a whole lot of hurt if we don't do something to keep our urban forest healthy.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We need those trees, and that's an excellent question. Maybe I should add that into my presentation. It's not one of those Xeriscape principles, but it's definitely something worth discussing. And I think the answer is the watering zones that I talked about. I think that you need to zone your trees so they get more water, or maybe just give them additional water by hand. Because,
or by, I mean, a double irrigation system is what.
It's possible, yeah. I think there are all kinds of options here, yeah. Or, you know, something to think about is possibly that, you know, plants under a tree would naturally need to be more shade tolerant and would naturally need a little more water, right? So that might work out for you that way. But you're right, I think completely taking out the lawn and then just leaving the trees to their own devices, that's absolutely a recipe for disaster. And we do need to think about our trees. Yeah, we need more water.
I'll say, Gertie, that when I did the front strip, like the hell strip between the sidewalk and the street, I put in Xeriscape with a free tree from the city. And then I just ran like 4 lines of the irrigation drip system into the tree, which I think, you know, they said would water it enough. And then I, you know, supplemented that with my own water.
Yeah, and
so I think,
you know, it's easy when you have a young tree.
Yeah.
But there's so much, I mean, what I see happening in my neighborhood is that people are just putting in grapefruit sized rocks in the area between the sidewalk and the street. And I remember.
That's so terrible.
Listen, the ankle breakers.
Yeah.
And it's not only not good for the trees, it's also not good for pedestrians.
Exactly.
Because they oftentimes end up in the sidewalk, or, you know, if you have to get from across it to the sidewalk on the street, it's tricky.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think that a conversation about xeriscaping does need to include a conversation about what to do with your trees if you're taking out your lawn. Yeah.
A couple more slides on that.
well, thank you so much, Elena. So this has been awesome.
Great. I'm happy to hear.
Yeah, definitely. That's great. So appreciate it.
My email is at the end of that presentation, so just feel free to let me know.
And we will go ahead and we will send this out, this presentation out to everyone. So awesome. Great. So yes, to Lou. Lou, are you still there? Oh, yep.
I am here.
Perfect. Let me get this back up on the agenda here.
This is a hard act to follow with all that really wonderful, interesting, and I'm going to bring up something that's fairly mundane and procedural, as I usually have to do. So can I just dive in, Keith?
Sure.
So the executive committee of Inc., as Keith mentioned to everyone, is in the process of reworking the website. And one of the things that new website platforms can do and other membership management platforms can do is really track membership. It is much easier to do if there's an annual membership date. So your membership runs from one date of the year to an end date the following year. And the board has voted to implement that change from many of the RNOs that have joined on a particular date, let's say February 1, and then they rejoined the following February 1. the annual meeting in March, everyone has to be a member to be able to participate in the voting. But right now we have many members, RNO members, who are staggered that will be, whose memberships are coming up between now and April 1. So April 1 will be the new date that the membership resets. Keith?
Yeah, you broke up a little bit. So if you want to rewind.
She might also want to go off video.
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, let me back up just a little bit. So in the process of doing a change to the website, the board has voted to have an annual membership period run from April 1 to March 31 of each year. That way we can have people that have joined throughout the year be members in good standing at the March annual meeting. But what it means is that we will have a transition year right now. And many of the members, we looked at the data on who joined when, and because it used to be March that the membership renewed, many of the RNOs have membership terms that expire between now and April 1. We are encouraging all of those members to rejoin now if they can, and then you will get the free months from whenever you join through the end of March of 2025. So for example, if your membership expires on February 1st, if you join by February 1st or join now just to get it over with, you will get a couple of months of free membership, and your membership will run all the way until March 31 of 2025. There are 7 organizations who joined after the April 1 date, but there are only 7 of them. If those members, and we will reach out to them individually, will just rejoin by the April 1 date, we will prorate that membership. So, but those are, again, only 7. Memberships for a basic RNO membership are $40 a year. There are some memberships that are at higher levels, and those are available on the website. Most RNOs join at the $40 a year. So beginning now, whenever you do join, it will be whatever membership level you choose, and that will be effective, as I said, for the period from the joining now before April 1st through March 31 of 2025. So if there are any questions, please email, you can email me, you can email Keith, and he can get it over to me so that we can answer your questions. But this will allow us to better serve membership so that we'll get everybody on the same page as to when membership starts for the year, and be able to have the website track that more carefully and send notices, etc., without as much human involvement, actually. So, and it's something that the new systems are offering. So I think that is it. Again, if you have any questions, please reach out. We're happy to talk to you. And then for the 7 organizations, we will be sending an email or doing personal outreach to see if we can get everybody to join by April 1.
Great. And this is, thanks so much, Lou. This is also definitely a ongoing, we're going to be presenting on this over the next couple of months, just to make sure everybody's on board with how this is moving along, and answer questions, and we'll be available to answer questions for all of that. So moving on, I don't see any hands. So moving on, we're going to talk about just some events and announcements, I think. Oops, here we go. Yeah, upcoming INC meetings that we have in the books. So zoning and planning, I think we already talked about that. Do you have a date?
Yeah, we do. And then I just wanted to elaborate a little more. So we are planning right now on getting the Denver West Renaissance. Is that right, Lucas?
Denver Renaissance Initiative.
Okay. And they were integral in getting the first couple ADUs built in West Denver, and have gone through the process quite a bit. And then also hopefully getting Councilwoman Torres at the meeting, who was really a proponent at the city level for getting the ADU zoning change across the city made. And then we are planning on the other part of the meeting will be about economics of construction, and maybe having somebody from Habitat for Humanity there, as well as a contact that Lucas knows. And that date is, and I think we're going to start pushing the meetings to 2 hours. I was hesitant to do 2-hour meetings, getting the committee up and running. But we are going to go back to 2-hour meetings. And the date for that is February 15th. Oh, yay. You can spend your day after the Day of Love with us. So yay, we can have an extended Valentine's Day celebration all together, talking about all fun things zoning and planning. So yeah, that's what we've got on the slate. So thank you.
Great, thanks. So that'll be February 15th, you said, right?
You got it.
Great, we'll get that information now. Moving on, Joanna, are you still there?
She's on, she might not be. Yeah.
Hi. Okay, so sorry about that. So regarding the February 10th meeting that we have coming up, the topic, as I mentioned earlier, will be unity in the community. And on this particular topic, we're going to be working with DPS as well as our mayor's office and some other speakers that I'm confirming. And the issue we're going to be speaking of is migrants. There are many migrants that live throughout Denver, excuse me, and it is a beautiful month of love. So we're going to be able to spread that love, figure out best ways to help each other. And I look forward to having everybody. We will be solidifying Lake Middle School, and the RNO We Can will be our host for that. I look forward to seeing everybody and hopefully not speaking like a man because of this call. But thank you so much. If you would like to add anything, Keith, feel free.
Oh, that's great. Just, yeah, if it's going to be at Lake Middle School, that's great to know. And we'll get that information out to folks. And yes, we'll be having election discussions as well at that meeting. But that's fantastic. So thanks so much, Joanna.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Back to Amber for the March 9th meeting.
Yay. Oh my God. I'm so excited to announce our location. If you have not spent much time in Northwest Denver, or do not live in Northwest Denver, or have not driven, well, not lately, because this building has been around for 120 years. It's Mount St. Vincent, which started out as a, not adoption, a group home, essentially, back in the late 1800s. And now has moved to day programming for at-risk youth, and they also work with fostering. It's an amazing school and very charitable organization. So we will be hosting our meeting there. Again, it's Mount St. Vincent. It's right on the corner of 41st and Lowell. Beautiful historic building. So we'll get some info about that. And that's our election meeting. And then we're also going to have Jill with Denver Street Partnerships talking about Vision Zero updates. So I'm super excited for that meeting.
Great. Thank you so much, Amber. Jane, do you mind coming up? Awesome. Orange cords.
And one last thing, Joanna, you're right. Orphanage. That's the word I was looking for. Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning.
Inc. will be awarding youth civic engagement awards again this year. 3 $500 awards and $1,000 award. This will go to youth groups through communities, schools who really work with students who are 14 to 19. We're trying to help them realize that what they do does impact their community and can impact their community. If you know of a youth group that you think would be interested, please send me their contact information. We've sent this out to all the area high schools. We've sent this out to every city council member and several of the organizations that we've worked with in the past to do this. And we've seen such wonderful results from a $500 grant with some of these groups that we're really happy that we're doing that again this year.
I don't know if folks were on in November, but we featured one of the youth groups that we had given a $500 grant to. With that grant, they started their website. Were able to boost their organization. They started the first one of the first community climate action plans, or school network climate action plans, and ended up meeting with the vice president and getting flown to DC to meet with the director of the EPA. So I feel like our grants go to good, have had good results in the past. So I think we're really excited this year to make sure that at least one of our grants is gonna, we're gonna try to work with a Nest neighborhood in Denver. These are, traditionally struggling low-income communities that the city has designated to try to make sure that displacement doesn't happen as Denver continues to develop. So we're excited about that. There's an email address up there for folks to send information to. If you have any leads or know of any youth groups, please, Jane has graciously agreed to take this on again this spring, so that we really appreciate her efforts to do that. So thanks,
Send me
Jane.
an email. Thanks.
Thanks, Jane.
Thanks, Jane.
I believe, let's see, wait. Yes, so we're trying to put together a potential event this spring, which is looking more like it's going to be in May. We're definitely looking for a space to do this in. We're trying to do a mixture of educational portion where we provide some information to RNOs about, kind of an RNO 101 of resources with the city and things like that, along with a reception that might feature some local artists. If you know of a location that might work, we're trying to connect with Denver School for the Arts or potentially East High School right here. That could be a good location that has like some classroom space, but also some reception space. We're definitely on the hunt, so please feel free to contact us. And then Amber's working on that as well, so feel free to contact me or Amber. And then just a reminder of our elections that Judy went over. We're definitely trying to fill some board positions. And then also, if you want to become more involved with Inc. and some of the things that we're doing, it's not just about being on the board. There's great committee work that's being done, and then we're also trying to do some more outreach and looking for folks that are interested in doing that. So, and also if you have any ideas that things that you're passionate about that you have wanted to try to figure out a way to do more with, please contact us. So contact Judy or myself. That would be great. Is there anything else? Anybody online or in here at Carl Madison? All right. Well, with that, thank you again to Elena from the Denver Botanic Gardens, and have hopefully a warmer day than the
Or
start.
at least stay warm.
Yes.
Stay
Yeah.
warm.
Totally. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Be well.
Take
Thank
care.
you.
Thanks, everybody.
I'm doing something.